Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuouki Demon of the Fleeting Blossom. We are still on Sanosuke Harada's route. The route that I believe is supposed to be the happiest one, which I figure would be a good thing to start with. So, Heisuke has returned to the fold, but he was injured and had to take the water of life, unfortunately. But at least he's here, and that counts for something. Alright, well anyway, I'm gonna continue reading. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. Scarcely a month had passed since Abara no Koji. Saito and Heisuke had returned, but the Shinsengumi was hardly back to normal. A dark, tense atmosphere pervaded the compound. Many men had lost their lives in Kazuma's attacks. Even more had been injured during the attack at Abara no Koji. Among them was Heisuke. Several of the rank-and-file soldiers had seen him mortally wounded. He looked as if he would not survive. For that reason, Heisuke was declared officially dead and made a member of the Fury Corps. Saito hadn't been wounded, but many among the common soldiers began to call him a coward. To them, he had left the Shinsengumi to join Ito, then betrayed his new master when he sensed a change of fortunes. I saw no reason why he shouldn't set them straight and say that he never truly left the Shinsengumi, but he claimed he would rather stay silent than tarnish the honor of the commander and the chief who had ordered his actions. As such, it was decided that Saito would leave the compound until tempers had been allowed to cool. Will they ever, though? He was sent to stay at Tenma in order to protect Kyutaro Miura, an official in the Kishu domain. The night of the battle at Abara no Koji was a turning point for the Shinsengumi. For the men who didn't know the details, it was simply a battle against their former comrades, the guardians of the Imperial Tomb. Those better informed knew that the situation with the Satsuma of Ryoma Sakamoto had been part of a much larger plan. Only the heads of the Shinsengumi knew the whole story, the activities of the demons, and Heisuke's transformation into a fury. Such an important battle had stirred up the atmosphere in the compound, and for several days, there were excited men everywhere, shouting and talking. Moments of silence were few and far between. I felt I would only be in the way if I was wandering around the grounds, so I did my best to stay in my room by myself. When had everything gone so wrong? Why had all of this happened? I turned those questions over and over in my mind, but found no answers. Ah, thank goodness you're here. If you'd gone out, I wouldn't have been able to look for you. Sanin, what do you want with me? Sanin? But it's daytime. Are you sure you're all right? Oh, come on, you've been outside with him a couple times before. Yes. I've just had a revelation. I can't possibly stay in bed. Does he need my demon's blood? His eyes glittered with something, and even though he was smiling, I could feel the fingers of dread begin to poke at the base of my spine. Well, will you listen to my idea? It didn't really seem like a question, but I nodded anyway. You're a demon. Yes, you don't have to tell me that. The words were sudden and unexpected. And as a demon, you are stronger, faster, and more resilient than a human. Am I really? Because wouldn't I have noticed that before? Demonic superiority was displayed quite regularly by those demons who attacked us just the other night. What are you trying to say? A demon possesses immense power. It follows that the blood which flows through your demon veins should be similarly powerful. Perhaps it is even potent enough to completely counteract the madness of the Furies. I didn't know how the Water of Life worked, but Sanin's explanation seemed logical, even if it was a bit manic. How can you know that for sure? Since before I became a Fury, I've been researching how the Water of Life works. I know more about it than anyone else here. Well, that's right. That night when he attacked me, didn't he lick my blood and he regained some sanity? How can I be wrong then? In any event, I believe it's worth testing. If I am correct, oh, it would be wonderful. But what, would you milk me for blood all the time? Your very existence could save the Fury Corps. No, the entire Shinsengumi. Wait! Sanin's eyes had grown painfully sharp, and I almost thought I could hear the barest edge of madness in his voice. Now. No, you don't need your sword! Just a needle's fine! Calmly and purposefully, he drew his sword from its scabbard. There was no madness or bloodlust in his movements, and that only made them all the more terrifying. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm not going to kill you or anything. Then why do you have a sword out? I just want a small sample of your blood. That's all. Needle! Needle! Or dagger, at least. I took a step back. 2. Sanin and his sword came closer. He lifted it, and the steel blade shimmered in the light. I closed my eyes.
What is this, Sanin?
Oh, Hijikata, excellent timing. Please give me a hand here. Hijikata! Hijikata walked slowly toward us, his hand drifting near the hilt of his sword. Help me! With calm purpose, he stepped between Sanin and I.
What are you doing? This could be a great breakthrough for the Shinsengumi. This is the last time, Sanin. What are you doing?
I'm searching for a new way to treat the madness of the Furies, for the good of the Shinsengumi.
And that means you have to cut her?
I'm not going to kill her. I only need a little of her blood. You don't need a sword for that! How many times do I have to say it? The room was thick with tension, but I sensed no hatred from either Sanin or Hijikata. We've lost so many of the Furies. Many of our soldiers have fallen as well. If we are to effectively utilize the Furies we have left, as well as the ones we are about to create, then we must find a way to temper their madness. If we abandon the Furies and what they offer, then future battles will only become more difficult. More of our men will die. Everything I do for the Shinsengumi. I know you for an intelligent man, Hijikata. Surely you understand. And yet, you won't allow Yukimoto to share her blood?
That's not what I mean.
Oh?
Sanin, you are a colonel of the Shinsengumi. Are you really ready to break the code? The code says we don't fight each other, for any reason. You haven't forgotten, have you?
Ah, of course. However, Yukimura is not technically a member of the Shinsengumi.
Maybe not, but she's been here long enough. She might as well be.
Then, I have no choice. With that, Sanin sheathed his sword. Hijikata watched him closely, his own hand still near his sword. I'll leave for now, then, but please consider what I've said.
Sure, but it won't change anything. Why should we cut her open and take her blood? Besides, even if I change my mind, Kondo will never let you do it.
I don't mind donating a little blood, but you don't need a sword for it? It's an easy decision for you and Kondo to make. You don't have the same investment in this. Heisuke's a Fury now too, though. This will affect him as well. So I encourage you to consider what's best for your friends when you make your decision. Those final words cut like a knife, deeper than anything he'd said before.
Can I say something?
You are the captain. Hijikata's voice was strained, as if he were pulling it from somewhere deep within his soul.
Of course. Your reasoning is correct. It always has been. But, Sanin, tell me you aren't doing this because the bloodlust is taking your mind. Tell me that some sick desire to taste her blood isn't what's driving you to this. Can I trust you?
Of course. My only concern is for the Shinsengumi. Goodbye then, Yukimura. We'll talk again. He smiled and ducked out of the room. Only after I'd heard his footsteps fade away down the hall did I begin to breathe again.
You okay?
I saw him relaxed almost imperceptibly as he turned to look at me. The bowstring-tight tension of the moment before was gone. Or at least mostly gone.
Sorry about that.
No, thank you for helping me.
Nothing to thank me for.
But there was something I wanted to say to him, a question that had been on my mind for a while. For a moment, I thought perhaps now was the time to ask, but no, I shut my mouth.
What?
Perhaps I was simply afraid of what his answer would be. Perhaps after hearing my question, he would no longer allow me to stay with the Shinsengumi. No, I couldn't stay with them forever. Nothing good would come of avoiding the issue. Best I simply face it. Still, I was afraid to ask.
I don't have all day. If you have something to say, say it.
I'd already drawn his attention, and apparently his ire. There was no point in backing out now. Why do you keep protecting me like this? Because he loves you, and I want to be with him, but it's not his turn yet.
Weren't you listening? That wasn't about you. It was about Sanin and the code. Besides, it's not like he was actually trying to kill you. At worst, I saved you a scratch.
I don't know. It looked like he was going to do more than a little scratch with that sword. No, I don't mean just now. I mean all the other times. When Kazuma attacked us, everyone in the Shinsengumi put their lives on the line for me. All he wanted was me. You could have just given me up, and he would have left you alone. Yeah, but then you would have given the demons an edge in the overall war.
Kazuma works for our enemies. That makes him our enemy. What sort of warrior doesn't fight his enemies?
I had to admit, that did seem reasonable.
Besides, you're Kodo's kid. If we went to find him, we need you. Didn't we talk about this when you got here?
Yes, but that was a long time ago. Things have changed. I don't think finding my father is going to be enough to resolve this situation anymore.
Look, we said we'd protect you, so we will. A samurai doesn't go back on his word. A man who breaks a promise just because something's changed isn't a man.
Even I knew he was only using my father as an excuse, but I had a feeling that if I pointed that out directly, he'd get angry. Still, that he could make excuses like this and let me stay and keep me safe, it could only mean that Hijikata and the Shinsengumi had finally accepted me. What do you mean finally? They accepted you a long time ago. That thought was like a ray of light, pushing away the doubt I'd felt only moments before. But I needed to be careful not to get carried away.
Alright, why'd you go quiet?
If they had accepted me, then I wanted to help. I wanted to do something. Then again, what could I possibly do? I couldn't fight. I didn't have any special knowledge aside from a little secondhand medicine. I can clean and cook. The thing that all heroines do in so many games. I was more of a burden than an asset, if I was honest with myself. What was I going to do? I have to say I'll stay here. But I do want to help. Why couldn't I train with a sword anyway? I mean, I may be a woman, but I could learn. I am a demon. Maybe I really am faster and stronger. I wanted to help, but perhaps it really was best if I simply stayed put. After all, what could I possibly do? Thank you, Hijikata. I think it's probably best if I stay here. Please let me know if you need anything.
That's probably a good idea.
I watched his back disappear through the door. I felt like I should honor my word and stay in my room for a day at least, but it was awfully dull to just sit there with nothing to do all by myself.
Hey, there you are. Damn, am I glad you're here. I'm getting sick of this grumpy old wet blanket. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing.
Is there something wrong?
Oh, we just thought you could keep us company. There's nobody else to talk to.
What do you mean? There are people everywhere.
Sorry, the truth is, I just want to let off some steam, and I can't talk about this with, well, anyone else. I mean, it's Kondo and Hijikata's fault to begin with. Sure can't talk with them. Damn right.
What? What is the deal?
The Fury Core is a bad idea. A really bad idea. We need to get rid of it before it really screws us.
So, Nagakura had something to get off his chest about the Fury Core. Now I understand why they couldn't talk about it with anyone. The people who knew about it were the people they blamed, and it was a secret to everyone else.
Sorry for bringing you into this.
It's not a big deal, to me at least, but aren't you guys not supposed to be talking about that to me?
I mean, it's not like I wanted Heisuke to die or anything, but can you really even call that being alive? Just seems cruel to me.
Well, yes, I suppose.
Every man here knows how it works. Sometimes we kill the other guys, sometimes he kills us. When we go out there, we all know he might not come back. But now, they won't even let us die. I know how you feel, but I think you're taking it a little far. The guys who are Furies now have their opinions on all of this, I'm sure. I mean, they're still people. And I really doubt Kondo and Hijikata just leapt into all of this blind. I'm sure they gave it a lot of thought. What the hell, Sano? Are you telling me you're actually behind this crap?
Nagakura was getting more and more agitated. It looked as if letting off steam was about to turn into a full-fledged argument.
Hey, I'm not saying that, am I? I think you may need to calm down a little, Shinpachi, alright? Just harping on other people's flaws isn't going to get you anywhere. Well, screw you then!
What? He's just kind of trying to calm you down and you're like, screw you? Nagakura leapt up and stormed out through the door, fuming. Oh no. Should I,
Sorry, guess we scared you, huh? He's not a bad guy.
I know, I've been living with you guys for what, 2 years now? Yes, I know that, but...
In fact, he's such a good guy that He just can't let go of some stuff, you know?
A good man who just couldn't bring himself to agree with something that felt wrong to him. On some level, at least, I knew what that was like.
Well, if a good man can't forgive stuff we're doing, then maybe that's a sign that the Shinsengumi is on its way out. Sanen's gotten pretty bad lately. Even I can see something's wrong there. You've seen it too, haven't you?
I swallowed. Yes, I'd seen it all too well. Even the memory of it made my blood run cold. It didn't feel right to tell Harada about it, though, so I tried to shift the conversation to something else. Harada, what do you think about the Furies?
I guess that's not an easy question to answer. I can see where Shinpachi's coming from. But, Fury or not, Heisuke's still our friend. I talked to him a couple of times after he drank the stuff, and he's still the same kid he always was. He walks, he talks, he laughs, he screws around. As long as you're alive, you can still have fun, I guess.
Have fun, huh?
What, did I say something funny?
No, it just really sounds like you. But yes, you're right. You can't have fun if you aren't alive.
Yep, means there's hope for the Furies still.
Oh, you look so sad. Let me cheer you up.
Far as everyone else is concerned, they're dead.
His voice hadn't changed, but it sounded somehow hollow now.
They can't even go outside without permission. Of course, even if they could, going outside during the day just makes them sick. And if they catch the smell of blood, they'll just lose it, and go after whoever's closest, friend or enemy. Hell, maybe it would be better if they just died.
He gave me a short bark of laughter at how neatly he contradicted himself. So long as you were alive, there was hope. But what could there be for the Furies? Were they even truly alive? I understood at least a little of the helplessness Harada was feeling.
We keep men alive so they can make more dead men on the other side. Is killing really all they're good for? Is that all any of us are good for?
What could I have possibly said to that? A thick silence settled over the room, and I glanced over at Harada's profile. I'd always seen him as somewhat aloof, or perhaps carefree was a better word, separate from worldly cares. It had seemed as if nothing could bring him down. But now, I could see that was only the surface. Far below in his heart churned passion, concern, and fury.
You know, I kind of envy Shinpachi. It's good to be able to let your anger out like that. It just seems more normal to do that.
You and Nagakura are worried about your friends. I don't really know that he's more normal. You just deal with it differently.
You think so?
Yes, of course I do. It wasn't like I said anything to support my argument, but it felt right, so I smiled and nodded emphatically.
But what can I do for them? For my friends who are Furies, I mean. It sounds idiotic to say I want to save them or something, but I feel like I have to do something.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to do either. Give blood? We fell silent then, thinking on what we might be able to do. The air grew heavy, and we sat in that room for what seemed like an eternity. The Shinsengumi, once solid, now wavered. What would happen to them? What would happen to the Fury Corps? Men were forced to watch as their friends became the undead monsters known as Furies. Was it any wonder that they found themselves conflicted, or that tempers began to rise? Several days later, the order was given to begin the imperial restoration. The emperor would be restored to power, and his court would once again rule the nation. The position of shogun would be abolished, and Kyoto's military and judiciary commissioner positions would be eliminated. All that the Shinsengumi had fought for and believed in was falling to pieces. But will they find a new place in the world? Chapter 4. December 1867. It was December. The combined forces of the Satsuma and Choshu were gathering in Kyoto and setting up camp around the imperial estate. In response, the Shinsengumi was ordered to guard the Fushimi magistrate's office. During their time in Kyoto, the Shinsengumi had killed plenty of men who'd rebelled against the shogunate. That had done little to endear them to the Satsuma and Choshu, who were staunch imperialists. Kyoto was a powder keg. The atmosphere in the magistrate's office was tense. Earlier in the day, Kondo had been shot in the shoulder while on the way back from a meeting.
I can't forgive those bastards. Let's throw them out of Kyoto. We've got to get revenge for the chief. Death to the Satsuma. Death to the Choshu.
I'd never seen the men so angry, although it was certainly understandable. Every man in the Shinsengumi looked up to Kondo, and it was hard not to like him. Still, I felt uncomfortable. Oh. Hello, Harada. He looked up at the sound of his name.
Hey, looks like it's not going to be a quiet New Year's, huh?
He was trying to act cheerful, but even I could see he was feeling down. How's Kondo's injury? I have a hard time asking the other men.
Oh, well, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really give you any details. But it looks like the bullet got him pretty good. He groans in his sleep.
I see. For the leader of a group of men like the Shinsengumi, Kondo was exceptionally kind. It hardly seemed fair that someone like that should be hurt so badly. I understood how the rest of the soldiers felt. Did they catch the shooter? Was it the Choshu?
Well, Shinpachi and his boys went out as soon as we'd heard that Kondo had been shot. They went over to the place where it happened with a fine-tooth comb, but they couldn't find anything. No witnesses either. I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, for the leader to get shot just as we're about to go to war.
No, that's not what I meant. I mean, I'm worried about that too, of course, but I just feel like something's up over here on our side. This just doesn't feel right.
What do you mean? What is it then? But instead of answering my question, Harada rubbed his finger thoughtfully along the bridge of his nose and murmured,
What are we fighting for exactly? The Choshu want to get revenge for the people who were killed at Ikeda Inn and during the Hamaguri Rebellion. But I've been thinking lately, what are we fighting for?
Well, aren't we all fighting for the shogunate? He frowned and pursed his lips.
Well, that's not wrong, I guess. I'm pretty sure Kondo's still trying to protect the shogunate. But I don't think this whole thing started just so he could fight the shogunate's wars.
You mean the Shinsengumi? I hadn't thought of it before, but I knew almost nothing about who the captains had been before they came to Kyoto, or why they'd come. The Shinsengumi had a reputation as a pack of bloodthirsty killers who dealt with ronin who stepped out of line. I knew now that they weren't nearly as bloodthirsty as public opinion made them out to be, but I didn't know anything about their origins in Edo.
I tried to kill myself once, you know. I was still a kid, but I got into an argument with a samurai.
He patted absently at the strip of cloth wrapped around his stomach.
Anyway, you know me. Even these days, I wouldn't say I've got a long fuse. But back then, I was either fine or I was really pissed off. He said something to me, and we kinda got into it. It ended up with me opening up my stomach. I didn't die, though, and that caused a lot of trouble. They pretty much kicked me out and I came to Edo. And that was when I met Kono and Hijikata.
He grinned.
It's probably pretty hard to imagine those days, now that he's the big important chief of the Shinsengumi.
Look at that adorable smug smile of his.
Back then, they were running this tiny dojo with barely enough students to get by.
Really? But they killed so many ronin. Okita especially was so good with a sword that it was hard to believe he was even human. I would have thought a dojo full of such powerful warriors would have flourished.
Swordwork that's useful in real life doesn't always look cool. There were a lot of other famous dojos in Edo, so why would anyone want to learn a style that makes you look like a farmer with a hoe? But even though they were barely making ends meet, they let my broke ass stay in their house. Doesn't get much more generous and open-hearted than that.
Some people might have written off Harada's words as bitter, but I could hear the warmth beneath them.
Once we moved to Kyoto, though, the shogunate started paying me a stipend. Now I don't have to rely on Kondo for money and food anymore. And our duty's to protect people, right? Man, I remember how stoked I was when I realized I was finally doing something I could be proud of.
Harada. He was right, of course. If the Shinsengumi hadn't gone to Ikeda Inn, for instance, then Kyoto would have been engulfed in flames. Every man in the Shinsengumi took pride in the responsibility they had to the citizens of Kyoto.
Now we're vassals of the shogun, and that means we gotta fight on his side. And after what happened to Kondo, we're gonna have to go out there and avenge him. But we spent all this time protecting Kyoto, and I want it to turn into a battlefield just so we can hash out who's better than who.
I didn't know what to say. In his mind, there were no complicated rules regarding his relationship to the shogunate and imperial court. All he wanted was to be useful and for his friends to be happy. Oh, he is such a sweetheart. That was why he'd come to Kyoto in the first place. But now he found himself about to dive headfirst into a war that would tear apart the city he'd worked so hard to protect. What could I possibly say to him? I couldn't even fight. He seemed to guess what I was thinking and gave me a wry smile.
Look, it's nothing you need to worry about, alright? So wipe that frown off your face. What's important now is that I can be proud of myself. I can walk in the light without guilt. I wonder how many other people in the Shinsengumi could say the same.
How could I answer that? Say, it's hard to say. I think it's hard to say. I mean, sure, we all had more fun before all of this started, but right now our country's in a tough spot. Trying to live in the past isn't really going to help anyone. And I knew that I wasn't actually considered a member of the Shinsengumi. I'd never risked my life to help keep Kyoto safe like they all had. It was only coincidence that had brought me to them, and I was only alive and safe because they had protected me. Aw, blossoms!
Sorry, I guess that wasn't really a fair question. Forget I said anything, okay? Shouldn't really be talking to a woman about our war anyway.
What? No, I didn't say that. True, I might not know very much about politics and war and all that stuff, but I'm always happy to listen. Maybe I can help that way.
That's not what I meant, idiot.
He grinned and ruffled my hair with a single huge hand.
I'm just saying a girl like you shouldn't have to worry about stuff like this. The battlefield's no place for a woman. Besides, I'd never live with myself if you got hurt. And believe me, it's gonna get bad out there. Real bad.
His words were gruff, but I could feel the warmth and concern behind them. I'm alright, but I want to do something. I don't want to just sit around and protect. I think there has to be something I could do to help. That was true. I did want to help, but I couldn't deny that a part of me had felt inordinately happy to hear him call me a woman and say that he was concerned for my safety.
Shouldn't you be free by now?
Free?
Well, you were only staying here because of the water of life, right? We needed Kondo's help back then. He's not really that important to us anymore. Sanen's got the research covered, and to be honest, we don't have the time or the men to go looking for Kodo these days. We kept you locked up because we were worried that you might leak information about the Shinsengumi. But I don't think there's a guy here who believes you do that now.
They're just protecting me now. He was saying things that I'd been thinking myself for some time, but I wasn't quite sure how to respond. In the beginning, I had wanted desperately to leave. That was true.
Well, if you want to go, you just tell me, right? I'll make sure you get to do what you want.
Ah! He gave me a friendly smack on the back that I hadn't been expecting. It was quite powerful. Hey, do you not know your own strength? What was that?
Oh, sorry. Guess I hit you a little too hard.
Yeah?
Anyway, all I was saying is, there's not really any reason for you to be stuck here forever.
But I want to be! I want to be with you and the rest of the guys here. Alright, well, anyway, I'm stopping there because there's so much stuff I want to get done tonight. I started Office Lovers, and I feel like playing We Happy Few, so, I don't know, I feel like doing a little bit of everything tonight. So yeah, just one episode of Hakuouki for now, and who knows how much editing I'll actually get done tomorrow anyway. So I hope to see you in some of my future videos, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.